coming on to Barters and Gentleman syndrome. Barters and Gentleman syndrome, as you all know, is a defect in the tubular reabsorption of sodium and chloride. So these are both the autosomal recessive disorders, and they have characteristic set of metabolic abnormalities. So what all metabolic abnormalities are there in the Barters and Gentleman syndrome? This is hypokalemia, metabolic alkalosis, hyperenanemia, hypoplasia of juxtaglomerular apparatus, hyperaldosteronism, and some patients may also have hypomagnesemia, and prostaglandin E2 levels are high in some patients. The hyperaldosteronism that is present in the Barters is a secondary type of hyperaldosteronism, and it is not associated with the hypertension. So in Barters syndrome, you have a normal blood pressure or a low blood pressure, but never a high blood pressure, because it is a secondary hyperaldosteronism. We will come to that in next slide. So coming on to the pathogenesis and clinical manifestations, the primary defect in both the Barters and the Gentleman syndrome is impairment in one of the transporters involved in the sodium and chloride reabsorption. So the main defect in the Barters syndrome is in the reabsorption of sodium and chloride. In case of Barters, it is a loop of Henle, and in case of Gentleman's, it is distal tubule that is defective in the reabsorption of sodium and chloride. So the patient with Barters and Gentleman, as well as the heterozygotes of both the disorders, will have lower blood pressure than the general population. Physiology of Bartter syndrome. This is a diagram. This is a diagram that is showing the ascending limb of loop of Henle. Okay, so this is the diagram with the cross-sectional view of ascending limb of loop of Henle, and what I have drawn here is the normal physiology of the cells of the kidney in the ascending limb. So suppose this side is the tubular side, so this is the tubular lumen. This is the kidney cell, as you can see, and here is the peritubular capillary, where finally absorption will take place. Okay, so there are some channels that you need to know about, or you may obviously know from the renal physiology, that there is a sodium potassium 2 chloride channel that is also known as NKCC channel, NKCC2 channel, and this is the channel on which loop diuretics usually works, and this is the channel that is affected in type 1 Barters. Then there is another channel that is a ROM-K channel. This one is the ROM-K channel, and this is the, mainly affected in type 2 Barters. And then there is another channel that is the CLC-KB or CLC-KA, that is jointly represented by the single channel that over here, and this is defective in type 3 Barters. So in type 1 Barters, NKCC2 channel is defective. In type 2 Barters, NKCC ROM-K channel is defective, and in type 3 Barters, CLC, KB and KA channels will be defective. So how is this all functioning? Let me just explain to you the normal physiology, and then we will come on to the Barters physiology, what is going on. Normally there is a concentration gradient that is being driven by this ATPase over here. This is the ATPase channel that is driving the concentration gradient, that is making 3 sodiums go out of the cell and takes 2 potassium into the cell. So there is a sodium concentration gradient that is the driving force for this NKCC channel. Because there is a concentration gradient for the sodium, potassium and two molecules of chloride will go inside the cell over here. but the potassium is already coming inside, so the potassium will increase inside the cell, and so it needs to go out. Okay, so this is the channel that potassium take the leaf from the cell and goes out in the tubular lumen, and chloride leaves the cell through this ClC-Kb channel. Normally this happens when the potassium goes out into the cell. From here the potassium leaves the cell from ROM-K channels, and because the potassium is cationic and it has a positive charge, it imparts a positive charge over the tubular epithelial cells near the luminal side. So this is positively charged, and as you can see, these all three charges, that is sodium, calcium and magnesium, are also positively charged. So these will obviously repel each other. There is a repelling force from both the sides, because this is the lower cell and this is the upper cell, both are from the ascending limb, and so there is a repelling force, and these will be absorbed into the peritubular capillaries over here from the circulation, from the lumen into the circulation. And this is what the normal physiology is like. So what happens when this NKCC channel is not working? Sodium, potassium and 2 chlorides are not going inside. Even though there is a driving force, even then the sodium, potassium and 2 chlorides are not going inside the cell, because this channel is defective. So the potassium will not come out of the cell. There is a defect. The potassium will not come out, and this charge will not be there. So this will happen, and this sodium which is not being absorbed over here, are around 25%, 20 to 25% sodium is absorbed in ascending limb of loop of Henle. So this is not being absorbed, and this goes towards the JG apparatus and in the distal convoluted tubules. At distal convoluted tubules, this sodium is absorbed in exchange with potassium and hydrogen ions that are excreted to reabsorb sodium, and this leads to hypokalemia, and decreased H+ ion leads to alkalosis. Okay, so there will be hypokalemia, there will be alkalosis, and because this can only absorb around 5% of the sodium by this method also, not all the sodium can be absorbed. So this will obviously lead to volume contraction, because the sodium is getting lost. So there will be volume contraction. This volume contraction will lead to decrease in the blood pressure, which results in increase in renin secretion. This is all normal physiology that I am telling you about, which leads to increase in angiotensin 2 and leads to increased aldosterone. So this is the secondary type of hyperaldosteronism due to the decrease in the blood pressure. This will obviously hyperaldosteronism will lead to increase in blood pressure, but because it is already decreased, it will lead to either normotensive or very mild hypotension, but not hypertension. Another thing that we were talking about is this JG apparatus. So the next very important thing is this JG apparatus. So in case of Bartter syndrome, the macula densa cells, there is impaired sodium transport to them. As a result, they start secreting increased amount of PGE2 because of increase in the cyclooxygenase 2 enzyme inside these cells. This PGE2 in turn stimulates renin production directly inside the JG cells, and this further leads to the Bartter like features in all the manifestations. So this is all the pathophysiology that we need to understand. Secondly, this is only the type 1 that we discussed about. In case of type 2, this ROMK channel, potassium channel, will not be working properly. So there will be increase in the potassium inside the cell, and this will hamper this channel to work properly because it cannot push potassium inside from both the sides. So this will not work properly. There will be a difficulty in concentration gradient, and again the sodium will not be reabsorbed properly and will go into the DCT, and same thing will happen, and same with the chloride also. But the type 3 Bartter syndrome is very very mild, and usually the type 3 Bartter syndrome, the patients come to notice when they are adult, and this is a mild type of Bartter syndrome because these chloride channels are redundant channels, and they are not very useful inside the renal tubular epithelial cells. So this is all about the pathophysiology of the Bartter syndrome. What told about this is type 1 Bartters, this is type 2 Bartters, and this is because of type 3 Bartters. A defective sodium chloride transport in the thick ascending limb. This will lead to increased sodium chloride delivery to the distal nephron. Okay, when there is a increased delivery to the distal nephron, what happens is increased potassium and hydrogen secretion lead to hypokalemia and metabolic alkalosis. Decreased voltage driven paracellular reabsorption of calcium and magnesium, hypercalciuria and hypermagnesiuria, and decreased serum calcium and decreased serum magnesium. Okay, because of increased sodium chloride delivery to distal nephron, this is volume contraction. Volume contraction lead to either normotension or normotension blunted vascular response to angiotensin 2 and norepinephrine. तो normotension हो जाएगा because of blunted response to the angiotensin 2, which is a vasoconstrictor, and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine angiotensin cannot increase the even though there is a lot of aldosterone present, it will not be able to increase the blood pressure. So either they will be normotensive or hypotensive. In volume contraction, there will be an increased renin, and because of increased renin, there will be increased angiotensin 2, which will increase the aldosterone. This will also going to cause the hypokalemia and hypokalemia and alkalosis, and aldosterone in turn will also increase the kallikrein. Kallikrein will be having a increase, will lead to increase in the prostaglandins. Prostaglandin will increase in urine, will increase bone desorption, lead to growth retardation and metabolic bone problems, and also fever. Metabolic alkalosis and hypokalemia will and prostaglandin in turn will lead to impaired vasopressin and stimulate urinary concentration, and hypostenuria will be there. Let's come to the clinical features. In case of Bartter syndrome, the diluting capacity of the patient with both the disorders is reduced. So why the diluting capacity is being reduced? So you cannot dilute the urine because you are not able to absorb the solutes from the urine. So the solutes will be there in the urine, you are not being able to maximally dilute the urine. Even though your antidiuretic hormone is functioning well, is suppressed, maximal urine dilation cannot occur. However, there is a distinctive feature that corresponds to the tubular location of disrupted sodium chloride reabsorption. Patient with Bartter syndrome tends to have blunted response to loop diuretics because the loop diuretics is acting on the NKCC2. That is where the loop diuretics act. So the Bartter syndrome patients will have blunted response to this because there is obviously there is no NKCC2 channel. This is a mutated channel, so the loop diuretic will not be able to work on this. And in case of Gentleman syndrome, they have blunted response to thiazide diuretics because the Gentleman syndrome, the DCT sodium chloride channel is defective, and the thiazide diuretics are acting on this channel. So obviously they will not be able to act when there is a defective channel. So in case of Bartter syndrome and in case of Gentleman syndrome, there will be a blunted response to in Bartter's loop diuretics and blunted response to thiazide in case of Gentleman's. Okay. The concentrating ability is impaired in Bartter syndrome but relatively preserved in Gentleman's. Why? Because the concentration is dependent on the medullary interstitium, and medullary interstitial concentration gradient is mainly maintained by the NKCC channel. That is not very well functioning in case of Bartter syndrome. So the sodium will not be reabsorbed into the medullary interstitium, and you will not be able to concentrate the urine properly because the counter current mechanism, if you remember, the counter current mechanism is not functioning well in case of Bartter syndrome. Okay, the urinary calcium excretion is normal or high in patients of Bartter syndrome. So you can understand now that why the urinary calcium excretion is normal or high, because they are not absorbed from the paracellular pathway as it is with the loop diuretics. Same with the loop diuretics. And since the calcium reabsorption in the thick ascending limb requires normal sodium chloride reabsorption, by contrast, urinary calcium excretion is typically reduced in patients with Gentleman syndrome as it is with the thiazide diuretic. So in case of Gentleman syndrome, it is acting like a thiazide diuretic, and in case of Bartter syndrome, it is acting like you are taking loop diuretics. So in Bartter's, loop diuretics is similar, and in Gentleman's it is similar to the effect of thiazide diuretics. Hypomagnesemia and renal magnesium wasting can occur in both the disorders but are more prominent feature of Gentleman syndrome. Okay, so hypomagnesemia and renal magnesium wasting can occur in both the disorders but is a more prominent feature of the Gentleman syndrome. Now the clinical manifestations of Bartter's, you must now all have been very clear about this. The clinical manifestation in case of childhood is growth and mental retardation because of increased requirements and decreased there are various metabolic problems. Then hypokalemia, metabolic alkalosis, polyuria and polydipsia due to decreased urinary concentrating ability. So the patient will complain of polyuria and polydipsia, and the patient might present into severe dehydration. With severe dehydration, normal to increased urinary calcium excretion, that you already know now. Normal or mildly decreased serum magnesium concentration because of the excretion. Obviously, hypophosphatemia in occasional patients with secondary hyperparathyroidism being a possible mechanism. Hypokalemia, that is less than 3 milliequivalents per liter, it will impair the urine concentrating ability, as with the hypercalcemia also. What are the mechanism is, both of these decrease the collecting tubule responsiveness to ADH. ADH creates the aquaporins inside the collecting duct and will help reabsorb the water. But in this case, there is a decreased responsiveness to ADH. In secondary, downregulation of urea transporters may also contribute to impaired urinary concentrating ability induced by the potassium depletion. In addition, there is enhanced autophagic degradation of proteins, most notably aquaporin 2, being demonstrated in the early event of hypokalemic induced nephrogenic DI. Diabetes insipidus. The concentrating defect induced by hypokalemia is associated with decreased collecting tubule responsiveness to ADH. Nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. How this occurs is incompletely understood. Firstly, it is decreased expression of aquaporin 2 channels, water channels, and secondly, the decreased activity of sodium potassium 2 chloride co-transporter in the thick ascending limb, which plays a central role in generating the countercurrent gradient. So, hypokalemia firstly decreases the aquaporin 2, and their formation is also decreased. There is autophagic degradation of the aquaporin channels. There is decreased expression of aquaporin 2, autophagic degradation, and decreased collected tubule responsiveness to the ADH, and decreased activity of the NKCC co-transporter. All this will lead to the decreased ability to concentrate.